You're a busy professional. You don't have time for fluff. You need strategies that work, and you need them fast. Welcome to Busy Pro Fast Wellness with me, your host, Alan Welsh. We're here to give you science-backed hacks and actionable tips to boost your focus, minimize friction, and maximize your results. Less time, more impact. It's time to get well, stay strong, and thrive. Let's get to it. Hello and welcome back to Busy Pro Fast Wellness. This is a fast wellness podcast for busy professionals who want more vitality, more presence, and more energy in less time. It's so great to be back here doing a solo episode. And, well, recently I was listening to a fascinating conversation between Novak Djokovic and Shetty. Now, whatever your opinion of Djokovic, there is simply no denying what he has achieved over his career. But it wasn't really the story about all that winning that caught my attention. It was one simple question. At 39 years old, after winning almost everything there is to win, he's still asking the question, how far can I go? But then he said something that really caught my attention. He admitted that what had worked brilliantly for him over the last 20 years might not be the thing that works next. Because now it's a different stage. There are different circumstances and there is a different version of himself. And that got me thinking about something. Maybe one of the biggest mistakes we make is assuming that because something might have helped us grow once, it should become our permanent way of living. And this took me back to something I did in my mid-30s. For reasons I still struggle to explain, I decided to cycle around Lake Geneva, or Lac Léman, as it's known in France and Switzerland. Now, this is nearly 200 kilometres from point to point. Now, sensible people would probably do this type of challenge on a decent road bike. But at the time, I only had a supermarket mountain bike that cost about €100 with a buckled wheel. Because apparently 200 kilometres just wasn't challenging enough. I also needed mechanical uncertainty. I somehow made it round in a day. So naturally, a few years later, I decided to do it again, but this time with a €400 mountain bike that was mechanically sound, in the opposite direction, just to spice it up a bit, anti-clockwise this time. Everything was going very well, and when I finally finished, I realised that my faithful Nokia phone was just on the brink of running out of battery, and my wife was supposed to pick me up in Adiel. And communicating with her, well, it just didn't work. The battery totally died. She couldn't find me. I couldn't find her. And suddenly, after nearly 200 kilometres, I realised I had one option left. And that was to ride the final 10 kilometres all uphill back to the chalet. And I still remember that climb. I was knackered, peeved, and almost in tears. Not because my legs hurt and my body ached, but because I had absolutely no choice. Just keep turning the pedals. One more revolution, then another, then another. Eventually, of course, I made it. Now, why did I do rides like that? There was no medal, no audience, no social media. Of course, it was a long time ago. No sponsorship, just curiosity. I wanted to push myself. I wanted to know if I could do it. And that was the challenge. But here's what's interesting. I turned 60 years old just a few weeks ago, and I realized something. I'm not convinced that's my challenge anymore. Not because I can't do difficult things, but because my life has changed, and maybe as a result, the challenge has changed as well. And that's why Djokovic's words really resonated with me. One of the greatest athletes ever, still curious, still learning, still adapting, and still willing to admit that yesterday's answers may not solve today's questions. And that in itself takes real humility, because success can become a trap. We repeat what once worked. We defend old habits. We keep sitting the same exam because we already know the answers. And that brings me to something that's happening in my own life now. After almost 3 years away, the band I play trumpet with, Cavallo y Hugo Mas, is being resurrected. We're playing 4 of our old pieces, but we're also writing something completely new, a piece that could last more than 20 minutes. There's no definitive roadmap, no real certainty. At this moment, there's just ideas, experiments, conversations, and creativity. And honestly, that excites me just as much as cycling around Lake Geneva ever did. Because maybe at 60, my challenge isn't so much about proving how much discomfort I can tolerate. Maybe it's discovering what I can now create. And I wonder whether the same is true for you. Maybe the challenge isn't working longer hours. Maybe it's learning to switch off. Maybe it isn't saying yes. Perhaps it's saying no. Maybe not pushing harder. Perhaps it's recovering better. The challenge changes if we're willing to let it. So here's something simple to try this week, and I'm calling it Change the Test. Take 1 minute and ask yourself, where am I still testing myself against an old version of me? Maybe you still believe a workout only counts if it lasts an hour. Change the test. Do 20 focused minutes. Maybe you think productivity means clearing 20 things from a list. Change the test. Choose the one thing that actually matters. Maybe you always walk the same route at the same pace. Change the test. Add a hill. Leave the headphones at home. Walk somewhere new. Maybe your challenge has always been physical. Change the test. Create something. Learn something. Have the conversation you've been avoiding. Try the technology you keep dismissing. And if you want a physical version this week, make it very simple. Choose one activity you already do. Walking, cycling, running, strength work, anything appropriate for you, and then just change one variable. Not 5, just 1. Perhaps a little longer, a little slower, a little steeper, a little more controlled. Or perhaps, and this is important, a little easier. Because sometimes restraint is the new challenge. And then notice what happens. Not just in your body, but also in your mind. And I think that's what I'm taking from Djokovic. Not that we should all live like elite athletes. Thank goodness. I quite like cake. But that we should remain students. curious, flexible, willing to evolve, because the person you were 10 years ago did an incredible job. They got you here. Be grateful to them, but don't expect them to know exactly what the next chapter requires. That's your job now, to stay curious enough to keep changing the question. And the playwright Samuel Beckett once said, "Ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail again, fail better." So this week, test yourself. Don't automatically repeat yesterday's test. Ask yourself, what challenge belongs to the person I've become? Because growth isn't always about going further. Sometimes it's about growing differently. This is Busy Pro Fast Wellness. Take care, stay curious, and goodbye for now.